You're listening to 14 Days and 40 Years, The Little Trip and the Long Journey. Written and read to you by me, Natalie Anderson. Thank you for choosing this book. It's always in hindsight that I realize the fortune of luck graces me often. Seldom in the present moment am I able to see it, but that's typical of the human experience, taking things for granted, especially if you're focused on your feelings. Hopefully later you realize how lucky you were and that you actually came away with benefit and beauty. For my 40th birthday, I was in Mexico for 14 days with a man I was crazy about. We spent those 2 weeks traveling and sightseeing, trying to take in as much archaeology, art, and culture as we possibly could. This was also our first 2 weeks together after months of talking on the phone and online. Living 3,432 miles apart, we decided to meet in the middle, landing in Mexico City just in time for Dia de los Muertos festivities. Sometimes we need months or years to fully appreciate the puzzle pieces that went into the benefit, beauty, and luck. And sometimes it's then you are able to tell the story of why. Preface. Not all love is the same, which is one of the most peculiar truths in life. Your love is as unique as the individual you feel it for, and that's why love is so amazing. I think it's also one of the greatest paradoxes we live through. It seems to me that there is so little choice in how big it is or how hard it hits. There's no telling what it will do to you when you enter the arena, and that's why it can be a force we often fight, because it has felt like a battle we've lost before. Although it feels like you are powerless in love, you aren't powerless at the end of love. In fact, you get to choose whether or not big love crushes you or it shrinks for you to carry it in your pocket as a reminder of the greatness it once was. The desire to not be destroyed by love is where I am. This is a story of 14 days that coincided with my 40th birthday and a time I fell in love. It was through a difficult turn of events that I got to step away from my uncomfortable life to experience turning 40 in Mexico with someone I didn't just love, but who I liked. So this is also a story about the importance of falling in like. Jay is obviously not the actual name of the man I write about, but it's a nickname that suits him, so I use it. When speaking about this book to friends, I call him Mexico Jay. I talk about him because he's a kaleidoscope of examples now. You see, without intending to teach me a single thing, he really taught me a lot. More about myself than anything. But everything I learned, I needed, even if some things took time to sink in. For a long time, I said if I ever shared this story, I'd have to call it fiction because it feels so personal. But eventually, I realized it made more sense to just admit it's me. I'm the quiet, naive girl in these pages who had barely begun to know herself and didn't know how to communicate as well as she thought she did. I'm the one who was learning that love can be complicated for others while seeming simple to me. One of the greatest lessons anyone can receive is getting to know what it feels like to fall in love and experience connection. That was my greatest benefit, because I have been able to use that measure of connection ever since. And conversely, Jay's measure of detachment. Jay embodies the men who are teachers, the men who are gentle, the ones so great at showing love and the ones capable of stealing hearts. He will never know all he's done, and I don't need to insist he cares. If asked, would you do it all again? I really don't know if I would. I'm glad that's not an actual decision I have to make, because all these years later, I can say there's benefit in having loved Mexico Jay. He's a reference I will use the rest of my life, and not because his examples were all good ones. It's normal to have uneventful years. 2 decades ago, if asked, how are things going? I would reply, great, nothing to report, same old, which is a good thing. I saw my boring life as good because I was getting by without anything bad happening. Sadly, nothing actually good was happening either. I was an enabler married to an alcoholic. Since
Sample complete. Ready to continue?